Okay, so we're going to be going over how to do the Sanibel bottoms from Little Lizard King, reversible, and then also the classic top. You should be able to use it for pretty much any of the top or bottom variations. The theory is about the same. So first we need to cut out our fabric. I'm going to be using the stars for the side panels of the bottom, and then I'm going to be using the stripes for the center front and then for the whole back. So you'll still want to cut 2 fronts and 2 backs just like you would do with a lining, but you're not going to want to use a lining, you're going to want to use another main fabric. So I'm just going to do them the inverse of each other. So this one will be the side panels with stars, and then the other side will be the side panels with the stripes. Okay, so here's going to be the front side panel, and then we will do the rest of the pieces. Okay, so we have all the pieces cut out. I'm doing the side panel front. So I have 2 center front pieces, and then I have 4 side pieces, and then 2 backs for the bottom. And then I don't pre-cut the elastic. I just pull it about at a 1-to-1 ratio, maybe a little bit more taut than that, and it works out just fine. So that's what I'll be doing for this too. Then I have the 2 fronts, and then I have the 2 backs. So now we get to do some sewing. Okay, so first we're going to construct the bottoms. So just go ahead and set your top pieces aside. You're going to put them together in 2 different layers. First you're going to do the inside, and then you're going to do the outside. Really, you could do it vice versa, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so go ahead. Since I'm doing the side panel pieces, I'm going to sew my side panels to my front center. So I cut my elastic one time using my snips, and they haven't quite been the same since. It's very sad. All right. There's a 1/2 inch seam allowance with this pattern. That's something definitely to remember. Okay, so now I have one front done. Go ahead and do the other front. So we have the 2 fronts now. Those are both done. Now you're going to take the backs and you're going to sew the crotch seams together. So pick which one you want to go with which. I'm going to do the stars with the stars. Okay, so you'll sew the back piece to the front piece, and one of them you're going to sew all the way across, and then the other one you're going to leave about a 1 inch gap. And then there is the gap right there. There we go. Okay, so now it's in one piece. Well, you have two pieces, the inside and the outside, but all of the front and the back are sewn together. So now you're going to lay them right sides together and then clip along the leg curves on both sides. I like to make it so the seam allowances are going opposite directions of each other, but they'll still lay flat on the same side. And then just go ahead and clip it all the way down. So the first thing that you're going to do after this part is done is I'm going to trim off the seam allowance using the serger. So since it's a 1/2 inch, I will be sewing the 1/4 inch and then cutting off a 1/4 inch as well. And then just do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now it is one piece and the leg seams are sewn up, and you're going to take your elastic. So like I said earlier, I like to do the elastic as just about a 1-to-1, maybe pulling the elastic just a smidge. And I'm just going to set the elastic right on top of here and sew it on with the serger. You can also get an elasticator foot, which really helps keep the tension the same. But I've made so many bathing suits in the past week, I feel like this is just fine. So run it along the leg seam on both sides. I like to make sure that the elastic is on the same side for the front and the back. Like this, and I'll go ahead and do it on the other side as well. So now the leg elastic is done on both sides, and you can go ahead and turn it right side out. Just feeding it through the crotch is the easiest way. And then it looks like this. So now we're going to do the side seams. You're going to match up the side seams and then open them up. So they'll look like this. So you have the front with the front and the back with the back. On this part, I like to make sure that the elastic is laying the same way, so that when you flip it, like in the center side, the elastic is laying the same way. so that when you flip it, it lays flatter. I've also found this seam to be kind of bulky, so sometimes I have to use my hammer and flatten it out. And you're going to sew up this side and then do the same thing for the other side. If you're having trouble getting the elastic or the side seams to line up perfectly, you can baste it on your sewing machine. That's what I was doing yesterday with the bathing suits that I was making, and it really made everything line up so nicely. This one is for my daughter and not for a customer, so it'll be fine. Okay, so now this side is done as well, and we'll So you can apply the same tutorial to really any kind of bathing suit. I did it for like a cheeky bottom adult one, and then I saw a tutorial for a thong bathing suit. You can really use it for anything. Sometimes getting over that elastic is kind of tricky. Alright, so now you should only have the top seam to do, and there's elastic in the legs already, so that's great. And you're going to flip it back inside out, going through that hole that you left in the crotch. Okay, so I pulled it all through that hole in the crotch, and now you're going to have 4 layers on the top. You'll see that they're not connected really, and so you'll have the 4 layers. You'll have a back, a front, and then another back. The inner 2 layers will be wrong sides together. So find the center back of the one that's closest to you, and then find the center back of the one that's furthest to you. So the 2 fronts will be sandwiched in between, but you're not going to be catching them inside of your seam. This is probably the trickiest step, I would say, to the whole thing, but this is the best way that I found to do it, and it seems to really work without having any major issues. So go ahead and clip along the top. You don't have to do the whole thing, just part of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and serge here too, cutting off that excess seam allowance. So you don't have to go from one full end to the other. You could just sew between your clips, or really as much as you want, getting as close as you can to one of the ends. Now don't take it off of your machine, and you take the 2 fronts from the center of this kind of like hole thing you have at the end, and feed them through, so that you have some more fabric to work with. Then match those side seams, and then you can sew a little more. And then do the same thing, feed some more through. It looks a little messy, but I promise you it's going to be okay. And match those side seams again, and keep sewing. And you're going to do this until you can get all the way around. There we go, there's a bigger piece. There's the clip from where we started. So we're almost all the way around. Okay, so now I have made it all the way around. We are still needing to do the elastic for the top seam. So you could take your elastic again and you can feed it into this, just serging again all the way around in the loop. And then when you get back to the beginning, you're going to want to overlap about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go around in the circle one more time, this time attaching the elastic. Just gonna keep feeding it out. All right, we're getting back to the beginning. Overlapping about the 1/2 inch. And then I just use the serger knife to cut off the end of it and disconnect it from the spool. Okay, so now you need to find the hole that you made in the crotch, and you're going to turn everything right side out through that hole. There's the hole again. So at this point you can top stitch if you want. I don't really find it necessary, but if you like to have like that super crisp seam on where the elastic is, you can totally do that. Okay, so here, now we have the one side, and you flip it inside out, and there is the other side. So now the only thing that's left is to finish up this hole in the crotch. So many threads. You could hand stitch it. That's probably going to be the cleanest way to close it. What I like to do is to just do a zigzag stitch across this crotch seam right here, and then I mean nobody's going to be seeing it. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. You could also do like a little lightning stitch right over the top of where the opening is, and then you're all finished.